Well, thank you so much, Jarrod, for coming today to have a chat. Jarrod Bloomfield is an awesome real estate agent, and I'm going to be going through asking a whole load of questions that I know you guys want answered. But I thought I'd get it out of the way. Jarrod, what made you want to become a real estate agent?
Yeah, good question, Kath. Thanks for having me and the invitation. So I actually did my real estate course when I was 17.
Oh.
And then I went into IT, funnily enough,
Yes.
so into a sales role, and stayed in that for 20 years.
Yep.
So it was only meant to be a couple of years. Anyway, stayed in it for 20. And then went through a whole range of roles, ended up in sales leadership and had my own IT company, and that got acquired in 2017.
Yep.
And then stayed in IT, and basically I sort of had enough of corporate life. A lot of travel,
Yeah.
a lot of time out, and so I just wanted a break. And then thought, you know what, I had dinner with a mate who was in real estate, and he suggested going, having a look at the industry. So I thought, you know what, I wanted to work with, local people, be in the community, and, make a difference to mums and dads and help them achieve property goals. So yeah, did my course and got back into it a couple of years ago.
So you redid the course even though you did it when you were 17?
Yeah, because it sort of changes. A lot of legislation changes, so get up to date with all that. So redid that, and then, off and running.
And how do you overcome the stigma? It's always the minority ruin it for the majority.
Yep.
And a lot of people, it's hard to, make a massive change, but how are you managing people's expectations or views of sales agents?
Yeah, it's tough. A lot of pushback. You get a lot of negativity.
Yeah.
A lot of abuse.
Yeah.
But I think it's good being older and more senior, because you've dealt with a lot of that anyway.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of it's people's own perception, and I can control what I can control in my area and what my team puts out, and as inputs out there as a message and how we operate.
Yeah.
So I don't anticipate to change in industry, but I do anticipate to, the people we work with in our team and everyone that our office works with is, has good feedback and generally is all around pretty positive. We try and keep it pretty honest and pretty authentic. Cut away from that stigma.
Yeah, just work on your own branding and, not worry about what other officers or agents are doing.
Yeah, but I say to a lot of vendors, trust me, I'm a real estate agent, but that doesn't go down well.
So I've
got to get a new line. So anyway, I said, trust me, I've only been in real estate shorter than most of the other ones.
Yeah, you haven't gotten the bad habits.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
So Jarrod, I wanted to ask you for the next question, what kind of challenges do buyers as well as vendors face in the current property market? I know interest rates are a question, but how are you seeing it affect buying and selling?
Yeah, so currently what we're seeing in our area is definitely the finance side. So the getting a loan, how long that takes, the scrutiny, the banks around risk and things like that. And then there's, what's vendors actually coming to market. Everyone's very skeptical around timing and when we should do it. So that just creates a delay. And then, so the stock on the market is sort of delayed.
Yeah.
There's just a lot up in the air, especially, I reckon it generally stems from financial.
Yeah. Are you finding that a lot of properties that are going on market are investment properties and landlords getting out of the property market in Victoria? Or are they just new developments? What kind of stock's out?
Yeah, so we've seen probably in the last 12 months, even a bit before, a lot of investors sell in Victoria. And sort of move their money interstate or into other areas outside of real estate. And that created sort of cheaper housing, I'll say, or those sort of investments, so apartments and things like that. There's a lot more apartments, but that means that there's more competition, which means, you get not a good price as if you're on your own. So but there's still family homes selling in our area, so where we are in Bayside. families still moving that need to move for work and want to upsize, downsize, get closer to school. So yeah, we're still seeing a lot of those homes hit the market, and in the past sort of 3 months, I'll say, with a lot more activity.
I suppose a lot of people are always like, it's such a big decision to sell your property. The vendor obviously wants the most out of selling the property to get the best price. So how do you choose whether or not a property goes to auction or private sale?
Yeah, so I will always recommend an auction because there's a couple of reasons. You can control the campaign, so you can control that it's a 4-week campaign, and you can you can create an end date for buyers. If buyers, have time to like dilly-dally around, they'll look for other things, something else will come on the market, they've got a chance to look at that. So for one, it creates an end game for the buyers to make them create urgency for them. It's unconditional for the vendor, and you've got a lot more chance in working out, okay, where are we going to sit around pricing throughout the market. And you don't have to go to auction. If you pick an auction, you can change it a week out. You can make it 2 weeks later. You can change it to private sale if you think the campaign's not going as well as you want. And even the vendor might have issues with where they're moving and not feel comfortable and change it. We've had one where a few days before the vendor was, that stressed out that it just wasn't even worth it. So we just changed it to private because they weren't sleeping. So there's a lot of intricacies in it. But I'd always say if you can go to auction because it gives you the best chance at a better result. And you could have 3 or 4 on the day. There's emotion involved, and if you've got guys, we're ultra competitive, so a lot of times we want to win, so we might spend more money just to win and look good in front of our partners. Well,
my husband definitely did that for our last property, and now we're stuck with it.
So it's definitely your best chance at a better result. But some people just, they can't. They've had really bad experiences, I've found, and they just don't want to do it again, and then they just it's not worth it. And there's some areas where auctions, they're really minimal because you might have a different buyer type, different nationalities that sort of
demographic. When it comes to one thing that I never knew, the vendor's reserve price. How is that set? Does it have to be within the price range that's advertised? What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, good question. Look, it's meant to be in the advertised price range. There's a few loopholes, like there is in most things in real estate. So you try and have it in the range because that's the fairest way to take your property to market. And every state has sort of different rules around this. There's always conjecture. So we'll always try and have it in the range, and then reserve you'll generally set. You'll be speaking about reserve sort of leading up to the auction. Like where do we think we're at? What buyers or bidders do we think we're going to have on the day? What sort of finance do they have? And you'll generally set it on the day. So you might say, for example, the range is 950 to 1,020,000. And I'll say, Kat, I think we set the reserve at 1 million. Are you happy at that? And you might say, yep. And then that one's pretty easy. So cool. If I get to 995, are you happy to call it on the market to keep it going? Or if it's just really stale at 980, we'll come in and have a chat and work out what we're going to do. So I think the reserve is, just comfortable for the vendor. And then generally when you're doing the auction or put, out, if it's flowing along, you sort of forget about it. Because you're just moving and everything's happening and you're like, oh, we're 50 grand past reserve or we're well under, we'll go work.